Hey there, solar. Questions. Do I buy it? Do I lease it? Do I rent it? What do I do? How does it work? I have an expert for you. His name is Coulter, and he is going to answer all your questions. In here week after week, every Wednesday, you know this is the place to come for all things Bakersfield, all things real estate, and all things answering your questions about real estate in Bakersfield. Today, we're going to talk about solar. There's a crap ton of things to know about it, but you don't have to know them all. You just need to know that I have the people to answer your questions. So we're going to talk about it. There are 3 things you need to know about solar: buy, lease, or PPA. He's going to tell you all about it.
All right, well, thank you, Angel. It's a pleasure to be here. So basically, I'm going to simplify this even further. Leasing and a PPA are the same thing. A PPA is just a modified lease. It's just structured slightly differently. Owning, of course, is something that at Bland, I work for Bland Company here in town. Owning is much better, offers homeowners far more benefits than leasing or PPA, but we're going to end up breaking that down for you next, right?
Yes, and you know me, I want you to own it, because when you sell your house, that is a huge benefit when it is owned solar. Everybody puts it in all caps, owned solar. So always, always, always lean toward the side of owning. But if you can't get to the owning yet, it's okay. There's no crime in renting or leasing it, but you just need to know what you're getting into. And whether you're gonna buy or sell, we're gonna be talking to the solar people throughout the entire process, because they're pivotal. So let's talk about just the lease. Let's talk about leasing first.
Okay, so one thing that's really important to understand is that sort of the overall concept is leasing or doing a PPA for solar isn't a bad idea. It's just not the best idea. Okay, so with a lease or a PPA, the homeowner signs a 20 or 25-year contract to buy electricity from the system that's on the home. So in essence, if you take a step back, that is a solar electric service that you are basically entering into a 20 to 25-year contract with.
A utility, basically, a utility.
That is correct. So financially, if you add up all those payments over the course of 20 or 25 years, it is not as good as owning. So that's a fact. It's math. It's real easy to show, and I've got handouts that will show that.
So, and give me the example, show them the example that you were telling me earlier about leasing a car versus buying a car.
Yeah, so I mean, it's real
this
simple.
Is good.
So it's not more complex when it comes to solar, right? So
we think it is, though.
Well, depending on who you talk to, right? If they're trying to sell you a lease or not. But basically, if you just take a step back, is it better to own or to rent your home? Simple. Is it better to own or to lease your vehicle? Simple. It's the same thing with solar. It's not more complicated than that.
I told you I have an expert. That's why he's here. Okay, now let's cover PPA.
Okay.
PPA stands for
Power Purchase Agreement. So a power.
And that sounds fancy, doesn't it? It sounds like, ooh, I'm getting a power purchase. I'm going to have power to purchase.
Right. So it's really important for homeowners to understand that a PPA is simply a lease that is just structured slightly differently. With a lease, you will have fixed payments monthly and sometimes an escalator throughout the entire term of the contract.
An escalator?
An annual escalator where that payment or rate will increase year over year over year.
I learned too.
So then a PPA is the exact same thing. The payments are going to basically equal the exact same thing because they have to, but it's structured on how much electricity that system produces each month. So what'll happen is in the wintertime when there's not much sun, then the payments will be lower. In the summertime when there's a lot of sun and it's producing a lot, the payments are higher. So it's a little more similar to PG&E, but you have to know that there's not a real advantage between doing a lease and a PPA. They're the same thing, just structured slightly differently.
Am I still paying, or is the homeowner still paying PG&E to be on the grid with a PPA and the lease?
Yep, no matter what, whether you own it, lease it, PPA, whatever option you do, you still have that grid fee or connection fee monthly. Right now it's right around $12 a month.
Right. And as much as we would all love to be off the grid, it's just, we're living in an urban area, so it's just not possible to go and, make your own food and be off the grid. I'm sure it could be somebody's plan, but you do still have to pay PG&E for the power, and then it gets into what we're going to send back to PG&E and how much what that rate is, and that's the conversation that you're going to have with him when you put it on your house. But really what you need to know is you're not going 100% off the grid. I have solar, I don't need to, worry about a power shortage or a rolling blackout, because it will affect you whether you have it or not. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay.
Now, there are solutions to that. You can do backup battery systems or whole home generators, which both Bland supplies. Currently, you have to be in a right situation for that to make financial sense to do right now.
Those aren't cheap, are they?
No, they're not. And there's not a return on investment. That's a big thing for homeowners to understand. There is not a return on investment today on doing a solar battery or doing a whole home generator. But it is something that may be necessary for you if you are in a situation where you absolutely have to have power with all the power outages.
So now let's talk about my love language. I'm a Dave Ramsey nerd. I want you to own the things. I want you to own the car. I want you to own the house. I want you to own your solar. So let's talk about owned.
Yep. So owning solar, it's very simple. The benefits for the homeowner for you would be far more substantial than leasing. So whether or not you purchase it outright with cash or whether you do a solar loan, it won't matter. It's going to pencil out better for you. It's going to offer you more benefits as far as federal tax credit money coming back to you. And then also, if you go to sell the home, it will not be an encumbrance upon that process. It'll actually add some value to the property and enhance essentially the property, but you can speak more to that.
All caps, always, owned solar. Quite honestly, having been there, it hurts a little bit when you're making the solar loan payment and you're still paying the PG&E while you're working that out. But if this is your forever home, if this is your 5 to 7 year home, you're going to reap the benefits of that much sooner than a lease or a PPA would, because you're going to get that money back in the tax credit and in the very much lowered PG&E bill after you've paid off the loan. So all guns blazing to pay it off as soon and as fast as possible, of course, but just know that it's really something that is, you're making an investment in your home by far.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's a thing that I really point out when I talk to people, and it again, kind of simplifying it. Right now with PG&E here in town, or Edison on the outskirts or Tehachapi area, you're making an electric service payment, right? You're paying them money and it's high rates, it's fluctuating, it escalates every year. And what you're getting out of that is, hey, I have lights, hey, I have air conditioning, right? Like I get to watch TV, which is fine because that's what we're used to. But if you do a solar lease, that is still, it's a service payment. You're not getting equity or anything out of that, right? You're still getting electricity, right?
Yeah.
You're still making a payment. It's lower, it's more controlled, which is nice compared to the utility, but it's not the fullest benefit. If you want to do whether you pay cash or if you do a solar loan, if you make that monthly payment, you're actually getting something out of that payment. You're actually getting equity back from that payment. And so it's a much better situation to own.
We like that.